Welcome to another episode and workshop for Transfer Tuesdays. Today we are joined by Naseem Reich, who is going to talk to us about all kinds of things financial aid and scholarships that you need to know to be prepared financially to transfer to a university. Thanks for joining us, Naseem, and floor, so to speak, is all yours.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for having me. I really enjoyed these Transfer Tuesday events, and anything for us to be able to communicate with students, whether it's about their future here at CCBC or whether they plan on transferring. And of course, we want to see all of our students successful, however that looks for them. So let's get started. Today, my purpose is really to talk about all things transfer when it comes to financial aid. And we want you to try to, be able to first of all, know what's available when going through this process, and hopefully you're receiving financial aid here as a student. And then kind of think about all the other things that are outside of the federal piece and possibly some of the state stuff. And then talk really about some of those specific things that are available to students within our state. And also thinking about what the school has available and then private national scholarships that are available. So again, I mentioned the federal. We can talk about state, and we will to a certain extent. We will look at USM, which is University of System Maryland. And the university system has their own scholarships that are overarching, so to speak, for state schools, and then school specific, whether they're private or public, and then private. So again, we're going to go through all of these. The first step in the process for any student who's interested in attending college and looking for financial assistance is to complete the FAFSA. And most students should be familiar with the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid. If you don't happen to be aware of what the FAFSA is, the FAFSA essentially is the form that is completed typically, and many years ago it was really just for the purposes of federal, and then state kind of trickled in, but a lot of colleges and universities are utilizing the FAFSA to award their own money. So again, I think it's really important for you to be aware of that, and that, this process is a bit tedious. I do also want to mention that in 2024, 2025, the FAFSA is being overhauled. And unfortunately, this will cause some issue for you as the student. The FAFSA typically is available October 1 every year. However, for 2024, 2025, the FAFSA still will not be made available until December, and the government has not provided a specific date in December. So we're hoping it's early December. And again, if you see this presentation, you can always check with the financial aid office here or with the school that you're interested in transferring to regarding that process and when the FAFSA is available again. It's extremely important for you to do your research. There are so many schools out there, and there are opportunities on a federal level, on a state level, private donors, corporations. There are scholarships available to students everywhere. And we encourage you to do your research and really know what's available. And then within that scope, know what types of what the processes are. So essentially, if you need to submit transcripts or resumes, just to kind of know what all of your responsibilities are in that process. And again, that will help you identify what you really need to apply for when it comes to transfer scholarships. And again, we talked about all of this already, but just as a reminder, these are the types of things that you're going for outside of federal financial assistance. Review each scholarship, identify the criteria. Most importantly, determine the deadline date. I don't know how to better help students with this, but I always encourage you to kind of make a spreadsheet and determine, one column have the name of the scholarship and another column have the deadline date. And then in a third column, identify all the things you need for each one of those scholarships. Excuse me. And again, try to get organized with your thoughts when it comes to this entire process, because there is a lot involved. A lot of these scholarships are looking for strong GPA. While need or financial need is a component for many things, a lot of scholarships that come from the school or even from a through USM or private scholarships, they really don't always have anything to do with financial need. So your GPA is a strong indicator of how you've been performing here at the college. And so again, looking at that, they really are looking at your GPA. They're looking at other eligibility criteria. For example, your essay, and I'm actually going to kind of move over to the next slide. Your essay, which is the last bullet here, is extremely important. You want to make yourself stand out as an applicant, and GPA is important. So they do look at your transcript. However, your letters of recommendation is extremely important if the scholarship requires one, because they'll really be able to talk about you as the person, not just the number and the GPA. And so again, I can't stress the importance of trying to stand out. And your essay will give you an opportunity, depending on what the topic is, if there is one, to talk about yourself, to talk about your experiences, talk about any adversity you've had in your life, and to bring up, obstacles that maybe you faced and how you've overcome them. Talking about your involvement here at the college is really important. We're going to talk about the Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship, and the Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship looks for leadership. So what I would say is that if you're not involved in any clubs or activities here at CCBC, I would really recommend that you start getting more and more involved, because that way you're able to build on your resume. And if you don't have some type of resume or an updated resume, a resume can be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is my work experience, which most people associate a resume with. It's really important to put anything you've been doing, whether it's in your community, whether you're involved in your church, whether you're involved with any civic organization or volunteering, for example, Habitat for Humanity. Maybe you were involved in study abroad. You should talk about that. Make sure you talk about your experiences at another university internationally. Anything that shows that you have leadership, community involvement. And again, it's really showing that you're a well-rounded applicant. It's not just a student who whether has financial need or just happens to be a good student. It's to really see the kind of person you are behind just being the student. So let's get into it now. So one of the big things is to apply for additional scholarships. And again, federal is just a standard responsibility about Pell Grant and loans and work study. However, outside of that, the Maryland Higher Education Commission, or the state that essentially is responsible for awarding scholarships and financial aid to students, have several opportunities for transfer students. One is the 2+2 transfer scholarship, which I definitely encourage you to apply for. You can receive it up to 3 years, which is extremely important if you're a student who may not be able to finish in an additional 2 years at full time. And right now it's $1,000 per year or $2,000 per year, depending on your program. So if you're majoring in science, teaching, engineering, computer science, mathematics, or nursing, you could be eligible to receive $2,000 a year. And again, this does require you to have your associate's degree. And something you'll notice is a common theme in most of these scholarships. Whether they're USM scholarships or private, they're really looking for you to have your associate's degree. So we're always going to encourage you to complete your associate's degree here at CCBC before transferring. Some of the oldies but goodies, if you look in the second column here, is the delegate and senatorial scholarship. So again, you'll complete your FAFSA and then check with the representatives in your district. So if you don't know your district, it should be on your voter registration card. If you happen to not be registered to vote, then you can go to a website called mdelect.net. You can put in your street address and it will provide your legislative district. There are workforce shortage grant opportunities specific to childcare, human services, teaching, nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, social work, and public service. Again, those scholarship amounts vary. There's a cybersecurity public service scholarship. There's a teaching fellows from Maryland. There's also the Richard Collins III Leadership Scholarship. That one specific is to an HBCU and a student who's in the ROTC programs. What I would do is go onto the website, take a look at each one of these scholarships, look at their criteria, look at how you apply for them. And again, that might require you to complete an application separately, which it will, through the Maryland Higher Education Commission website. And these 4 bullets are extremely important in this process. The first thing is you do need to create an account through the Maryland Higher Education Commission. They call it MD-CAPS, which is the online access. So you're going to create an account. If you are offered an award, you would have to accept it directly through your MD-CAPS account. You would want to include at least one Maryland school. Again, Maryland financial aid is intended for you to stay in the state of Maryland and for you to attend a Maryland school and for you to eventually be employed in Maryland and also pay Maryland taxes. So that's what they're looking for. I want to stress the importance of using an actual street address. They're not going to mail you anything, but the street address is utilized because that's how they identify your legislative district. And again, use the mdelect.net website in order to determine your legislative district. Moving from state to Regents or USM, the system has their own scholarships, essentially, and there are 2 categories within this. And I'm sorry if this is very small on your screen. However, there are 3 specific scholarships initially, which is the Gross Weinberg Schaefer Award, which is on the top. Then there's the Kelly Award, and then there's the Weinberg for part-time attendance. All of these scholarships include the entire cost of your tuition and fees, on-campus room, board, and stipend. The only difference is the part-time award does only cover up to 18 credits, again, because it's meant for you to be part-time, and there's a modest stipend versus on-campus room and board. I should mention that these scholarships are highly competitive. However, you should apply for them. They do require a very strong GPA, a 3.8 or higher. So the Kelly only says 3.8 or higher. The full Gross Weinberg Schaefer and the Weinberg part-time require a 4.0 GPA. Your major is not required or pivotal for this. In other words, you can major in anything. And then the Kelly Award does have one caveat, which requires financial needs. So you do need to be able to show your FAFSA results for that. Within the Regents, there are also 2 types of grants, and they are treated a little differently. In other words, you don't have to have your associate's degree, but the other 3 that we just talked about do require an associate's degree. And the GPA is a little lower at a 3.8. Also, there is, for the Regents, you do need to be nominated by CCBC. Dr. Ray Rosenthal is the person that would submit that. And I do have her contact information at the end of this presentation. The USM or Regents scholarships and grants have a very long line of documentation or required items. And this is why I stated early how important this is to look at this early on, because there are all sorts of information that are listed here about what you have to provide, nominations, everything is listed on here. And again, if you have questions about this, I would recommend emailing Dr. Ray Rosenthal. You can also email the Regents, but they want you to communicate with the person who creates the nomination, mostly because they will have all that information for you as well. And again, Dr. Rosenthal is the person to communicate with. So we've talked again about federal, we've talked about state, we've talked about Regents or USM. Now I'm going to talk to you about some school specific. I am not going to go through every single college in Maryland, but I wanted to try to provide you at least one HBCU, one private college, and some public schools. And just to kind of understand what they're doing to be more flexible with transfer students, not just because it's in the law, but because they really are trying to be more transfer friendly for students so that they can complete 2 years of their degree here at CCBC to move on to a 4-year school to complete their baccalaureate degree. So Goucher College is the first one. I was very delighted to see that Goucher has provided an honors award for students. So any students who are in honors program, they would receive $2,000. There's an associate's degree award of $2,500 a year. And then there's also the Phi Theta Kappa award of $2,000 per year. I should also mention that depending on what your GPA is, there's actually a chart on their website. And on these slides, you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, the direct link for where this information is housed is also located, provided for you so that you can go directly there to take a look at this. And really, again, do your research, read everything, read all the fine print, make sure you know what you need to do in order to be eligible. But based on your GPA and your official transcripts on file, depending on what your GPA is, then they will also provide you a scholarship based on your GPA, which is great. I don't believe that requires a separate application, but with your completed admissions application, they will take a look at that. But again, make sure to check in with them, make sure they don't need any additional information. But again, this is really focusing on your activities here at the college and your GPA. These do not have anything to do with need. So if you do happen to have any need, these would be in conjunction with those need-based awards. Morgan State University, unfortunately, did not have a very extensive website. However, they do have a transfer incentive program specifically for community college students. They will give $2,000 per year based on GPA in a specific major. Again, I've provided the direct link for you in the upper right-hand corner. Morgan does have a lot of other, I believe, foundational scholarships and grants. And again, check with them to find out what you need to do in order to be eligible. Stevenson University had a very long list. We don't get too much into this presentation about actual costs of each of these schools, but keep in mind that private colleges like Stevenson and Goucher will cost more than Morgan State or Towson University, and it's mostly because of the school types. That doesn't mean that you'll somehow owe more money at a private college, but it does mean that you will have to really take a look at that bottom line to see what you would owe, because a school like Goucher or Stevenson could give you all this financial aid, and you might only owe this school $2,000 after all is said and done, and you apply for Towson University and maybe you're not eligible for anything and you owe them $5,000. So again, it could be more beneficial when it comes to the bottom line about costs if it's cheaper to go to a private school than it is a public school. But again, you have to kind of take a look at all of these award packages once they're provided to you and determine what your bottom line is to that school before making your final decision, outside of academic programs and just liking the campus and other reasons for attending a college. So Stevenson will also review it automatically based on your admissions application information and your transcript. Again, their link is in the upper right-hand corner. They had a ton of other scholarships available to students: honors, PTK, a transfer fellowship, a Seven Oaks scholarship. There's even a mock trial scholarship. This year, I noticed they had several additional scholarships available to students. Again, make sure to follow whatever their eligibility criteria is to be eligible. Towson, again, did not have a lot of information. They have a transfer achievement award for students that has a March 1st deadline. They do have an honors college scholarship. However, you have to apply to Towson's Honor College by a certain date in order to then be eligible for those scholarships. Departments have money they can award to students, and also there is a scholarship search engine, so to speak, but it's only for TU awards and TU Foundation scholarships. So again, check that, apply, do your research. As I always say to students, the only thing that you're losing is time. So, applying for everything is crucial in this stage when you're trying to find as much financial assistance to help you go to school. So again, make sure you're applying for everything. Again, UMBC is very transfer friendly. I'd like to see that they had a specific award for students for transfer. So the Academic Achievement Award, there's a Phi Theta Kappa again, there's a Transfer Student Alliance, they have merit scholarships. I do want to highlight, if you're in our Degrees to Succeed program here at CCBC, and Courtney Topolsky, who introduced me in this presentation, you would want to email, and I believe Courtney will provide that email at the end of this presentation. But really, if you have questions about the Degrees to Succeed program, you really want to ask, because again, this could get you another $1,000 at UMBC if that's one of your top schools that you're looking at. College Park has several scholarships. I did speak with our honors program coordinator here at Essex, and I am delightfully surprised to hear that on average, we could have about 15 students a year receiving the Frederick Douglass Scholarship from CCBC applicants, which is awesome, which is 50% of the scholarships that are being offered to transfer students. And we're really happy to hear that CCBC is paving the way there. But they are meant for full-time enrollment, and they are also a full tuition and fee scholarship. So again, that would be awesome for any student interested in College Park. There's a specific Maryland Transfer Scholarship. There's a President's Transfer Scholarship, but this is only for out-of-state transfer students. So if there's anybody watching this presentation that attends CCBC and they are considered out-of-state, this would be a good opportunity for you. Again, they have their own scholarship search engine, and I provided the link there for you. And then again, the academic departments can award scholarships as well. There are a myriad of other schools in the state of Maryland. I have tried to provide all the private and public four-year schools in the state of Maryland here on the slide. Hopefully I haven't missed any, but again, take a look at all the options, programs. And again, at the end of the day, I'm always going to encourage you to look at the Maryland schools, because you will be able to keep state financial assistance in-house, and that would help, again, cover any expenses you might have when deciding that you're going to attend college. So I like to highlight the Jack Kent Cooke separately from all the other private college scholarships, because it is a phenomenal scholarship. The Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship is a full tuition and fee scholarship. I will say that probably in the last, decade perhaps, and I could be wrong with these numbers, we've had about 6 to 7 students here at CCBC receive the Jack Kent Cooke nationally. And I should mention that this does require, they have specific eligibility requirements. So again, it says at least sophomore status, but we're going to encourage you to finish your associates here. And it is a lengthy process for application. I put some of the things that are listed on their website about the recommendations, official transcripts from any colleges you've attended for the last 15 years. You can apply directly via the Common App. There are some places that it states that you do not need the advisor here. Again, it's Dr. Ray Rosenthal who is responsible for this, but you don't need to seem to have, you will not require a nomination. However, she is our contact person. So if you have any questions about Jack Kent Cooke, I would recommend contacting her directly. Again, her contact information is on the, I believe, second to last slide of this presentation. And they will be looking for financial information from at least the last 3 years of you and your parents, if you're a dependent student, adjusted gross income, which is essentially information from the taxes. The application opened on August 24th and will close November 16th. So there's roughly about another month and a week or so that you can apply. Once it closes, they will announce the semifinalists in January of 2024, and then they will be making their final recommendations after that date. Those dates are not provided at this point per their website. However, again, the Jack Kent Cooke is a phenomenal opportunity, and I would recommend and urge all of you to apply. There are a ton of scholarships out there. They're private, they are public, they are nationally recognized. I provided several on here. I want to just draw some attention to a couple of them listed on there. The Career One Stop, which is the first one, is actually housed through the Department of Labor. And I recommend that because it's not only can you go there and apply and learn about all sorts of scholarships, but you can also do career analysis and find out how much money, for example, if you're interested in being an environmental scientist, how much an environmental scientist might make a year, where there's shortages. There's all sorts of things you can find there. I like that. Schooly, which is the second one, or Scholly, I'm sorry. Scholly was just bought out by Sallie Mae. It used to be privately housed. In other words, it was money making, and now it's free to use. So I would recommend that. Of course, PTK, again, there's a whole bunch in between there. And the College Board also has a great website, which is the last one listed there, and also FastWeb. The only tip I would give you here is you just have to remember that when you're applying for scholarships on a national level, they could be highly competitive. I just want to set your expectations so they're realistic, that just because you apply doesn't mean you'll receive something. However, a lot of people think that and then don't apply, and then a lot of scholarships go unawarded. So what I would say is just make sure that you apply for everything you might be eligible for. And again, I can't encourage that enough, because it could help you in so many ways. Let's say you don't get one of those other scholarships like a Jack Kent Cooke or a USM scholarship, but you get 3 of these. That could help you pay down all of your tuition. International students are not eligible for federal or state aid. However, there are a lot of colleges and universities that do offer some types of scholarships for international students. So what I would recommend is, if you are an international student, please contact the school and see what opportunities they might have for you. Also, in the state of Maryland, there has been an increase in DREAM Act students or DACA students. And just in case you're unaware, students in this situation typically cannot fill out a FAFSA. However, what they can do is Maryland has created its own financial aid application that we refer to as the MISFA. And students can complete that and be eligible for certain scholarships and grants. So what I would recommend is make sure that you complete this. And then also, when you are a DREAM student, you do, in order to be eligible for those in-state rates, if you're going to a public school, make sure that you contact whatever office is on campus, submit the appropriate documentation so that you can be flagged as a DREAM student to receive in-state or in-county rates. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Rosenthal's contact information is listed here. It's rrosenthal@ccbcmd.edu. And again, she's very responsive. She is part-time, so I should mention, if you don't receive a response immediately or within the same day, she will get back to you on the next business day that she's in the office. These are some of the important links. The FAFSA website, again, I can't stress the importance of that. The MHEC website, which has all things state financial aid, the USM Board of Regents to apply for those scholarships we talked about. And again, all the specific school scholarships, all of the links were on each of the individual pages. And essentially, this is my presentation. I really hope that you all enjoyed learning about financial aid, learning about federal, state, institutional, USM. Pretty much, this was a jam-packed presentation that might be a bit overwhelming, but the awesome thing about this is that Courtney and her team that handle Transfer Tuesdays will make this information available to you, and you can watch it again, and you can get a copy of the presentation if you want. There's all sorts of things that you can get. Courtney, the only thing I need for you to do is to share the Degrees to Succeed information.
Sure. So the email is very straightforward. It is degrees to succeed. So DEGREESTOSUCCEED@ccbcmd.edu. But if you forget that and you're a degree seeking student with us, chances are we've emailed you. So you can always look in your CCBC email too for an email from the Degrees to Succeed staff.
Awesome.
So I want to thank Nasim for joining us today. I really appreciate you doing this. I know that I learn a lot every time you present on financial aid, and I hope that our students did as well.